The first thing she felt was cold air on her face, real air, not the damp recycled breath of the underground. For a moment she thought she was dead. Then her lungs burned as she gasped, coughing dirt and rust from her throat, and she realized she had made it out. She lay there on the forest floor, staring up at a slice of gray sky between broken trees, listening to her own heartbeat thunder in her ears. Behind her, hidden by rocks and tangled roots, was the tunnel. The place everyone said you never escaped. Her name was Mara, and she had been underground for 3 years. No one knew exactly when the tunnels were built. Some said they were old war shelters, others believed they were something far older, carved long before cities existed. What mattered was that people went missing near them, and sometimes if you listened carefully at night, you could hear something breathing from deep below. Mara had fallen in by accident, the ground giving way beneath her during a storm. When she woke up, the entrance was gone, sealed by mud and stone, and the darkness had swallowed her whole. Down there, time didn't work properly. Days blurred into each other. The lights flickered when they worked at all, and the walls seemed to shift when you weren't looking at them. She wasn't alone. There were others at first, survivors like her, people who had fallen or been dragged down. One by one, they disappeared. Not killed, taken. That was the worst part. At night, something moved through the tunnels, something that knew their names, something that whispered promises in familiar voices. Mara learned quickly that if you answered, if you acknowledged it, you were gone by morning. She survived by staying silent and moving constantly. She mapped the tunnels in her head, marking danger with scratches on the wall, memorizing the places where the air felt wrong. Hunger became a dull ache she learned to ignore. Fear became a constant companion. But hope never fully died. Somewhere above, there had to be a way out. She found it by accident, a crack in the ceiling, no wider than her arm, where cold air seeped down like a ghost. It took weeks to widen it, scraping her hands raw, climbing inch by inch while the whispers grew louder below. On the final night the thing came close. She felt its presence like pressure on her skull, heard her mother's voice begging her to come back. Mara screamed and climbed anyway, bursting through the surface just as something slammed into the ceiling beneath her. Now she was free. Or so she thought. She didn't stay in the forest long. Every shadow made her flinch, every sound sent her heart racing. When she reached the road and flagged down a passing truck, the driver barely recognized her as human. She was taken to a hospital, wrapped in blankets, fed slowly, asked endless questions she couldn't answer. The doctor said trauma could explain the nightmares. They said the feeling of being watched would fade. It didn't. The first night back in the world, she woke to the sound of breathing beside her bed, slow, familiar. She froze, staring at the dark corner of the room where the light didn't quite reach. When she turned on the lamp, nothing was there. But the smell hit her seconds later. Damp earth, rust, the underground. Over the next few days, strange things began to happen. Walls seemed closer than before. Hallways stretched too long. She caught herself tracing invisible maps on her arm, counting steps without realizing it. At night, she heard whispers through the vents, voices she recognized from the tunnels, voices of people who never escaped. She tried to leave the hospital, but every exit led her past the basement. The doors down there were always slightly open, darkness spilling out like ink. She told a nurse about it, but when they checked, the doors were sealed, locked tight, no basement access at all. The horror followed her home. In her apartment, the floor creaked at night in patterns she remembered. 3 slow steps, a pause, then scratching. Her dreams changed. She wasn't trapped underground anymore. She was walking freely through the tunnels, guiding something behind her, showing it the way up. Each time she woke up, there was dirt under her fingernails. Mara began to understand the truth too late. The tunnels didn't just trap people, they marked them. You didn't escape alone. You carried a piece of it with you, a doorway, a memory that could be opened. The thing had followed her not by chasing her, but by becoming part of her. On the 7th night, the whispers stopped. The silence was worse. She stood in her kitchen, staring at the floor, knowing without knowing why that it was thinner there, that the underground was close. Her hands trembled as she picked up a knife, not to defend herself, but to dig. Somewhere below, something waited, patient and hungry, ready to come home again.